It's okay.
I was having problems with tech all week long, so I finally got my laptop working.
And we are live.
Oh, finally.
So, well, we could have spent 6 minutes talking about the Eagles, but I mean, that would have been, sort of counter to the purpose. Welcome to episode 259 of the American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, I've got IDon'tLikeWesterns.com. And we've got John K. Alvarez, sporting the Eagles, Super Bowl winners. That's right. We had a Super Bowl and our team won. So congratulations to my birds. You know what? The hell with that. Hold on a second.
Here we go.
There we go.
All right.
Fly.
Oh, yeah, that feels much better. That feels much better.
There you go.
Hold on. What's he got for us here?
I don't even have my Bears cap in this room. You suck.
See, if you put on the Chiefs, I would have laughed my ass off.
Yeah. Just to
God never.
Just a piss in our ear.
Well,
All right, so let's just get right into it. We're talking Scott Cooper's Hostiles. Shall we get it going?
Let's get it going.
Boogie. Yeah, it's a Derek Truck Band's fucking awesome. So when I first saw this, the thing that it reminded me of was that line from Tolkien, where Faramir is standing over the body of that soldier he just killed, and he's wondering aloud if he was really evil at heart.
Mm-hmm.
And me being a YouTuber, and you guys are like YouTube adjacent here. I spent a lot of time on the tube, or a decent amount of time on the tube. And you hear a lot of that in veteran testimony as they just talk about their experience. And I think the best example I heard was from Rob O'Neill. And Rob O'Neill, if you believe the stories, is the guy who allegedly shot bin Laden, went through the door and killed him. And I was watching him on the Sean Ryan show one time, and he said that there's this one guy that he thinks of a lot. And he wasn't upset about it. He was telling it in a very matter-of-fact way. He goes, I shot this guy, and he goes, I shot him in front of his wife. And he goes, I think about that guy a lot. And he's like, well, why did I shoot him in front of his – he went through it in this way. He goes, well, why did I shoot him? In front of his wife. Why did I shoot him at all? He goes, well, because, he reached for his rifle. Well, why did he reach for his rifle? Why? Because I was standing in his bedroom at 2:30 in the morning. Well, why was I in his bedroom at 2:30 in the morning? Because, and he said this. He goes, because George fucking Bush told me that, this was part of this axis of evil. So there I am in some strange guy's bedroom at 2:30 in the morning shooting him in front of his fucking wife. And he goes, I think about that now. And he goes, like, what if that guy was funny? Like if I had met him in another setting you know, and like in a cafe in Paris, you know, and we had just started shooting the shit, you know, what would he have been like? You know, what was that experience like? And that reminds me a bit of this movie.
Yeah.
You know, for, you know, people are sort of forced to take off the war face and sort of look at each other actually as people. Let's get with I don't like westerns.com. What did you think of Scott Cooper's Hostiles?
All right. Well, you just reminded me of a story I remember that just stuck with me since high school. And I can't remember whose story it was. I kind of want to say it was George Orwell, but maybe not. They said in World War I, they were on the front. He took aim at an enemy soldier, had him in his sights, ready to kill him. And he saw the guy's pants start to fall down. And the guy, you know, lowered his rifle and started pulling up his pants. And he said, in that moment, I could not kill this man, even though I could have really easily, simply because I saw too much of his humanity in that moment. And that's kind of works with the theme of this movie. Like I said, I don't normally watch Westerns. I don't usually seek out Westerns. So I need to be forced to watch them. And I'm very glad I watched this one. This one is not your typical Western sort of two-dimensional morality tale. This one tackles some really deep issues that were really important at the time. So it's a good metaphor for our culture at the time, 2017. And it's a really just a damn good movie with super performances from everybody. And one of the best things was I didn't know Rory Cochrane was in it. And I love Rory Cochrane. I love the stuff that he's in. I think he's an underutilized character actor. And it was good to see him in a role where he could bite off a big chunk and chew it instead of being a goofball. And it was a really, really good film. I won't upset the apple cart and reveal too much about the plot, but I think one of the big themes that I saw in this was people having a mirror held up to them and in an instant reevaluating all of the things that they thought and then reacting to that.
Well, just so we're clear, this is 2017, so we're talking spoilers here.
Right.
I want to say,
but we're going to talk about it. I just don't want to get
okay.
too deep into the plot and the theme right now. But I'll talk about the moment I realized that was a real theme, because I was like, oh, I get what's happening here. It's not just a simple sort of. It's not a mission. It's not a quest. It's not one of any of those movies. It's not a revenge movie. It is, you know, this thing where all the characters have a moment of reflection with it, and that made it more than just a simple Western to me. So I enjoyed watching it.
John, what do you got for us?
To me, this was, and it was funny because I like Western movies, and I was worried about it falling into the Western movie trap of, you know, looking at the Wild West or the expansion to the West with nostalgia eyes. And this didn't. I mean, you know, hatingwesterns.com put it the best when he uttered the phrase, they were holding a mirror up to your face. And it was. It's weird because it reminded me of an old saying my father used to say. I may have said it to you a couple times, Michael, about be sure of your principles, you know, so to speak. And this is kind of what it was. Everybody was going through this whole, I've come right out and said it was a journey. Yes, they had what they had to do, the task at hand in this situation. But not to give spoilers away, but this was a journey and everyone was for self-discovering. I mean, everybody. The ones who were considered the heroes, the ones who were considered the villains, the ones who were considered on the side. Everybody discovered something.
Yeah.
And I really sat there and went, I was worried about it being too much, you know, of that, like that, or that theme that it might overwhelm the story, but it didn't.
Yeah.
It enhanced it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a message and it sort of bludgeons you in the face through the whole movie, you're like, yeah, all right, I get it. Give me a movie. This one didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
The message was there, but it wasn't. They didn't lead with it. They led with character and story and plot and nailed it so that
Right.
it earned the right to say, and this is the point. This is the moral.
Right. Yeah.
I think that even I did not appreciate what an ensemble cast this was.
Yeah.
You've got Christian Bale, you got Rosamund Pike, you got Wes Studi, and Wes Studi did so much with so little. He really had so few lines. He's always been great. But you had Ben Foster. Ben Foster was really great as sort of the darker image of Christian Bale. You know,
Right.
we were just talking about Batman Begins before we went on, and he reminded me of like Liam Neeson. Like the darker image of Christian Bale. In this case, it's played by Ben Foster. You know, in that old line, you know, you're one bad day away from becoming me. You know, that old Batman line. You know, it's just that. Jonathan Majors was in it. You know, Adam Beach, Jesse Plemons. I love Jesse Plemons.
Yes.
Plemons was fucking great in this. Stephen Lang. Stephen Lang's 5 minutes in this is very important. Because I think he's the first person that, like Bill's talking about, that sort of forces Bale to hold up a mirror to himself and say, "Well, you're no angel yourself.
Right.
You know, let's keep it in perspective here." And then Koryanka Kilcher, who I remember from Terrence Malick's The New World, where they did the Pocahontas story. It's also incredibly violent. It's this hardcore movie that starts off in the first 5 minutes with this family just getting fucking massacred. And men are getting scalped and little girls are getting shot and they shoot the fucking baby even. Like these, you know, these Comanche Indians just do not give a fuck. And it reminded me of just how crazy, like, the frontier must have been, that you're just going to go out there with a couple of rifles in the middle of nowhere and just, hey, we're going to take our chances. You know, I'm going to build a house here. I have no idea who the neighbors are.
Right.
You know, people are actively trying to kill me. I'm out here by myself. You know, it's like that family from The Witch, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
They're just going to go out there and give it a shot. And you're just like, this is fucking batshit. But, I mean, that's the way that it happened.
And there's it sounds a little weird, but it's something you brought up. Even throughout this whole movie, there is a theme of family.
Yes.
Because there's a couple of families that you see and their reaction to being in this world. And it's funny because I love the fact that isolation in the very beginning, with the family being, for lack of a better term, on their own. And then when you're in the group, they're like, okay, you're going to be safe. And you weren't. You know, it's still that, you know, it's still that isolation is. It was amazing. That's what when they were reaching out to each other, quite not purposefully, but they were reaching out and making connections. It's that amazed me in this movie. That was such a subtle undertone.
The thing
it's
about
really important. It's real important that this thing takes place in 1892. It literally is the end of the Wild West, of Manifest Destiny, of all of it. And like you said, we have a romantic revisionist sort of view of that era. And there's a lot that it's worth looking at with that romantic idea, because there is a lot of that out there. But by the time it was over in 1892, you had to take stock of the good, but also the bad, the wicked. And I think this movie says something about it's time to take stock that, you know, this era is over. We're about to hit the 1900s. It's about to be the progressive era. And even though we're all the way out west, and it's still wild, it's over. The railroads are built. You know,
the Industrial Revolution is coming.
We've been there for 40 years. It's over. So that's, at least for me, having that historical context. I'm like, okay, I
Yeah.
see where we're going.
It starts out, we see this random family just getting massacred,
Mhm.
for some horses.
Mhm.
Again, just batshit crazy. But then we shift over to, excuse me a second, got a little tickle here. To the soldiers that are like bringing back these Apaches that have run away, I guess, escaped from jail.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing about it is that it's like this really kind of horrible kind of scene to watch, because the woman's screaming and the soldiers are trying to, capture this one guy, and then they just like, they get him with the lasso, and then they're pulling him by the horse, and come on, it reminded me of what Marty said about like Schindler's List. Like, you look on everybody's face, it's monotony. Like they're not cruel about it. It's just it's their job, and it's awful. But you look on Christian Bale's face, and he's just looking. Like, the first expression on his face is just like, "Can we finish this up, please? Like, I'm late for lunch."
I was waiting for him to go. Can we wrap it up? I was waiting for that symbol. Come on,
Yep.
Yeah, it's not cruel. It's just they're so hardened, and everybody is just so fucking calloused. I think from like decades of war, that this is just.
Is that the point where the guy said, it doesn't have to be like this, and Bale is like, of a better way?
Yeah, and I think that was a great line. It doesn't have to be like, and he goes, "Can you think of a better way?" Which is ironic because, like, it's coming to an end, this way.
The thing of it is about everybody in this movie too, and it's what they all have in common, at least in terms of the main characters. They're all lost.
Yeah.
They're all lost. Like, you've got the soldiers who have you can smell the PTSD on these guys.
Yeah.
Right.
You could just smell it, especially when Rory Cochrane is talking to Christian Bale about how they've taken his guns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so bad. Even then, they're like, something's off about this guy. Like, no, this, we've gone, he's got the melancholia, which today we would call PTSD.
Well, you see Rory Cochrane's character, he's just there drinking and not knowing how to deal with these feelings that he's got going on. Whereas Christian Bale's character is sitting there reading Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
So you right away that Christian Bale is like a warrior in the classic sense. Like, he's educated, he's read, and he knows the language of his enemy, with this in a way that's learned. Where Rory Cochrane's probably a kid from a farm, who's just a sergeant and has been killing, and he's been experiencing all this stuff, and he probably doesn't have the tools to sort of compartmentalize or deal with what he's been doing. And that's part of the reason why PTSD is taking hold.
Yeah, like the whiskey is dripping off his beard. He's so fucking drunk. But it's funny. It was ironic because Bale is reading, Caesar's commentaries, and that's basically about the Celtic Holocaust. Yeah, it's basically about how they just massacred all those fucking Celts. And so, there's a lot of power. I don't think it's a coincidence that that's exactly what he's reading and probably identifying with, passing that book on at the end of the movie to the little boy, saying, "This is the bravest man I've ever met." I mean, they're in a post-Holocaust kind of world where they've just, the natives are all gone. There's a couple left in the jails, and they all hate each other.
Yeah. I mean, even when in the scene when they were at the fort in the beginning and new people were being added to Christian Bale's platoon.
Yeah.
His group. And he says to one of them, "Well, let's see what West Point has taught you." But you can tell they had no clue what was going on.
Right.
They were looking around going, like the one kid, "I don't know why they're bringing me." And you go, "I didn't request you." But you're in it. It reminded me of a lot of war movies that I've seen or stories that I've read where the new group comes in, so to speak. And you're right. They all had they had such a backstory in their lives.
Yeah.
This is one of the few movies when I finished watching it today, I sat there and said, I would love to see a prequel. I would love to see some of these characters when they're before this. I mean, don't get me wrong. I loved it when you saw what happened at the end. I would love to see what made them that way.
Right.
Well, you get enough of that. I mean, just in that
True.
brief conversation between Rory Cochrane and Christian Bale, where he's talking about how like that Kiowa stuck a lance in his belly,
Mhm.
and they're saying it in such a matter of fact way.
Right.
Like if you would say that to somebody, you'd think it would upset them. And he's like, you took that guy and you found him and you cut him from like stem to stern. You just like opened him up, and they're like laughing about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so the image of like what they're at a place that, the average civilian can't identify with, which I think becomes really apparent when Christian Bale meets that reporter, when he gets the orders with Stephen Lang.
Yep.
What did you think of that scene?
Well, first off, when I was watching this movie, I kept thinking about the Brad Pitt movie Fury, which is similar, where fresh-faced new recruit gets stuck in this tank with four guys who have been hacking it out for years. So yeah, same thing. But that was set up so that you felt the contempt for the reporter, because he's not been there. He's still dressed in his fine, New York City suit. So it makes you identify with Christian Bale a little bit. And Bale keeps coming back to the thing of, it's my job. The reporter keeps trying to hint like, you're a monster, you're a killer. And Christian Bale's like, no, it's my job. I did what I had to do because this is what I do. It's not that he wanted to go out and kill all those people. He just got put in that position. He's been, following orders.
And there were a couple of people in this movie, but the reporter stuck with it. The reporter is supposed to literally report what happens. And he came in with a preconceived notion or image of what you already are.
Yep.
And that's why when Christian Bale was saying, I was doing my job, the reporter doesn't get that because the reporter doesn't want to report that. That's not the story to him.
But then he tries to trip up the Bale character, the captain, by saying, you hate them. And he's like, yeah, I got a whole war bag full of hate for them. There's a whole lot of reasons why I hate them.
Right. Yeah, because all these guys have lost a lot of friends.
Right.
Which is part of the recognition that happens at the end of the movie where he has the final conversation with Wes Studi. He's like, I've lost a lot of friends. But he realizes you've lost a lot of friends too.
Yeah.
A lot of your friends. I've killed a lot of your friends too. And
there's a line. I'm sorry. There's a line in
that scene, and it's so easy for him to deflect because he's not being confronted by anyone, even his commanding officer, who's been in the position he's been in. So they're not a threat to him. He can brush them off. He doesn't want to do this mission because he's fucking had it with all these missions and he's about to be done. But no one in that office, not the reporter, not his commanding officer, can say a goddamn word to him because they haven't been where he's been. The only person that we know of at that point who's been there is Rory Cochrane.
Right.
And when he said to him at the end, he goes, "You had a great career. Don't end it in,
don't come up short.
Yeah, don't end it this way."
But he knows it's a fool's errand. He doesn't want to do it. He's trying to get rid of him as well as the Indian.
Yeah, and it's the experience that he has gone through.
It's also, I think, that he knows it's like people aren't coming back from something like this. Like again, there's safety in that fort. You just decide to take a couple of guys out and go from Arizona to Montana, and this. Like, people aren't coming back from that. Like, it's not safe, I'm not running 5 miles to go capture some guy who ran away.
Right.
I'm going, a month away on horse.
Right.
It's all for the sake of this newspaper article, which is going to be, plastered all over the East Coast.
Right.
And it's a PR stunt.
PR stunt, yeah.
And he knows that he's being disposed of. He knows that he's being put out, on this last mission, hoping that he won't come back.
Well, there's the famous quote from Buffalo Bill Cody, where he was talking to a reporter, and the reporter was telling him about the Native Americans and things like. And Bill Cody was looking at him saying, "You're wrong. You're completely wrong on this."
Yep.
And it was the first time that the people were going by and shooting the buffalo from the trains.
Mm.
They were just shooting it. And he looked at him and he picked up a buffalo head nickel. And he goes, "The only thing you know about these things is what you got here." And he just dropped it at his feet.
Mm.
I thought that was a very dramatic story, but very romantic. I read a book to do research on a play, and I found out that was true. He had this conversation, and he did. He pulled out the nickel, but he didn't drop it at his feet. He hit him in the freaking head with it. He kind of threw it at him.
Of course he did.
But he turned around and said, he goes, you're not getting it. You're not reporting. You're dramatizing.
It's probably a similar contempt that some veterans have for, civilians, and some of the things they see and the way people act, and over the span of, the 20-year war that, just kind of wrapped up.
100%. And that's really important in the last scene of the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In the last scene of the movie. That made me think of all my friends who have been in combat and the way they have to deal with people who don't know what it is, and even well-meaning say the dumbest fucking things to them.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of Stephen Lang's character? I liked his character. He seemed like a veteran, but he's at a different level. He's just, cause celebre, that kind of thing. But I thought in those 5 minutes, you start to see, like I said, that like he points out to Christian Bale, like, "Hey, you're no angel either."
Right.
And he's not. He sort of does it in a matter of fact way.
Right.
Like he's not poking at him like the reporter.
But he's the only one who could.
Yeah.
There's a great line in the movie. A friend of mine wrote. He wrote Heartbreak Ridge.
Okay.
He turned around and said, "We've traveled many. We've traveled many of the same roads together, even though they probably never worked together." He's the only one who could look at him and say, you're no saint, because he's been there. He had the lucky part of actually being in the fort. He got to the point he didn't have to keep going out.
Right.
There was that safety in those walls if he needed it. Christian Bale was the guy that kept sending out because he's the one who keeps coming back.
Yeah.
He seems to be that character.
Yeah, it just
finds a way to make it back.
But it kind of makes there's a cost to that.
Exactly.
And that he's and you get like none of these guys have anything outside of the military.
Exactly.
Like that's all, like Roy Cochrane said, he fought for the Greys.
Yeah.
Like he goes back to the Civil War. Like
Right.
first person I killed, I was 14 years old.
Right.
He's been doing this since he was a child. So just 30 years of nothing but war and killing and like watching awful shit just happen to people like probably every fucking day. Yeah, is it a wonder that eventually you just get tired of it? He goes up to Christian Bale at one point. He goes, I don't feel anything anymore.
It's weird.
It's not even that he. No, I just want to say real quick. It's not even that he feels bad or that he just like he can like I don't feel anything anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what he can't stand.
The thing about this movie, and as much as I like the Western showing of it, this was also genuinely a war movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's like there's shades of Saving Private Ryan.
Yes.
But it's the exact opposite. Instead of trying to find them, they have them, they're getting them home. There's shades of that experience and what's going on. The sergeant, when he was talking about killing his first kill at 14, that was one of the coldest monologues I have ever seen delivered, because not the fact that he was making it cold or making it mean, he was human, just talking about, after a while you just don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, son of a bitch,
That's what Clemens says. He goes, "That's what I'm afraid of."
Yeah.
He goes, I'm
Yeah,
afraid, you know, because that
exactly.
was the reason
And
he
he
comes
has a
up.
right to be afraid.
So
You know, if you see him, he could possibly see his future, allegedly. But you know, it's and that stuff was done, and it was never overly blown up in this movie. They just presented it to you,
Hmm.
and you took it the way how you wanted to. Some people would look at it and find it boring. I found it fascinating.
Yeah.
Because I always, when I teach acting, when I used to teach acting in college, I used to say, I hate acting on stage. I want to see you being real. Or that was probably one of the realest monologues I've ever seen about somebody talking, and he was just doing his job.
I'm telling you, man.
Yeah,
Corey, Rory Cochrane.
This is a
He's
deeper
good.
movie than I think people gave credit to it. Type deal.
I don't
A
think
lot
a lot
of
of
people
people
got
gave
into it, but a lot of people said that it was a movie for old people, which is weird. I literally do not remember this movie coming or going. I had no concept of this film until Mike said go watch it.
This is 2017. We are eyeballs deep in the MCU at that point. We are eyeballs up to with DC, and those are the movies that are just ruling at the box office. And so
And I
these
think
types
that's why
of movies are a tertiary at best consideration for the average moviegoer at that time. They're just paying no attention whatsoever. Westerns, and I've said this many times, are basically being kept alive right now by Kevin Costner and Taylor Sheridan. Otherwise, they would have died off. I love Westerns. I think that they're. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying, you and I have talked about Westerns before.
Yeah.
To me, with this movie, Open Range, that came out a few months ago, the biggest
Horizon,
the biggest complaint that they were saying was like, "Oh, this is too slow moving."
Yeah, it's too long.
And I'm like, but the point about it is they're setting you up, and you're
Right.
seeing these characters.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I am a huge fan of the Marvel movies.
Yeah, sure.
I read the comics when I was a kid.
Right.
Big fan of them.
Right back
But
there.
there's other movies. There's other stories to be told.
Yeah, Costner's setting you up for like a 12-hour fucking epic, and you can't even get the first part.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, all right, well, all right. Well, you can decide for yourself where the fault is. But
meanwhile, Wicked makes $1 billion.
Yeah.
And I have nothing against that. It's a musical.
Yeah. Hold on a second.
Oh, look at who it is.
Well, almost. All right, maybe
God, Ryan, you look like a circle.
Right, he's got that Comcast blues.
There he is.
Hey, what's happening?
What's up? I was just
Hola.
having some fun with my stupid browser. It wasn't. It was. It just for some reason it turned off the camera and the mic, so I had to go back and do some nonsense to make it happen.
Gotcha.
So what's happening?
So, we were just talking about this movie. You saw me a while ago.
I saw with you.
You're a
Yeah.
Western fan.
Oh,
what
yeah.
What do you think of the film? Let's just go into that. I mean,
What I was going to
say
say
to it already.
Okay. Well, what I was thinking about earlier is that this is one of the probably most realistic Westerns in terms of like how brutal it was and how dangerous it was back then.
Yeah.
This almost could have, if it was a novel, it would have been written by Larry McMurtry. Because he's my favorite Western author, and he writes this kind of stuff. If you've read Lonesome Dove, I could totally, I'm thinking as I'm watching it, like, man, this is harsh stuff. I mean, and it's one of the better, modern Westerns. And it's not, it stripped away all the mythos and stuff like that. I mean, that opening scene when that family gets killed and stuff, and it's just like that's what those Comancheros were murdering assholes, and a lot of them weren't even Native American. Some were, but they were just criminals, and that really kind of set the tone for the whole rest of the thing. But I enjoyed it. I mean, like I said, it was a realistic depiction of what happened back then,
What did you think?
Top of that, it's a beautiful movie. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so well shot.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
God, yeah.
scenery is great, and it matches
Yeah.
up exactly with what you
Mhm,
expect going from New Mexico up to Montana.
mhm.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
westerns, and so it's no fault of the Italians, but when they film westerns,
Yeah.
in Naples, it doesn't work.
It doesn't ring.
Or in Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this really was
I even liked when they were shooting it when the storms were rolling in or it was cloudy and the scenes were even darker.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The way they were
Yeah.
using the play of shadows and things like
Mm-hmm.
when Rosamund she turns around at one point in time and looks at Christian Bale and she's in the shadow. And
Yeah.
when she turns, her face is slightly lit a little
And
bit more.
yeah.
I
And
mean, but it wasn't like shining or Technicolor type deal. It was
And I
such
have
a
to
natural
say,
way of using shadows.
and Wes Studi is one of my all-time favorite actors, and I think this is his best movie. He's been around forever,
Yeah.
and he's been around. I think his first movie
Mohicans.
was Dances with Wolves, I think. But he's an amazing actor, and he doesn't get a lot of credit, and he's very underrated, and he's fantastic in this film.
What did you? I mean, Scott Cooper is the director of this, and Scott Cooper has done movies like he did that movie Crazy Heart, the one with Jeff Bridges, where he's the country singer. He did.
Was that? Oh, I'm thinking of the other one with Val Kilmer, Thunderheart.
No, Crazy Heart.
Okay.
He did Black Mass, which was the Johnny Depp Whitey Bulger movie.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
he did a horror movie called Antlers, but he said in this he wanted to portray the Cheyenne, which is West Studi's people here, in the best possible light.
right.
How did you feel that West Studi's, his group? I mean, they just seemed like, I don't know. There was no trouble. There was no conflict. It seemed to be more of an issue of the soldiers having to recognize that there wasn't going to be a problem here.
Well, some of the tribes were peaceful. I mean, they weren't all killing each other. I mean, it was the Comanche were notorious the Comanche ruled the plains and Texas and all that stuff. They were a warring tribe. They killed other tribes.
Well, this is one of those mirror moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comanche attack the party.
Yeah.
And, the Cheyenne were in as much danger.
Right.
And, as much as you can go, oh, Cowboys bad or U.S. Army bad, Indians good, like a Kevin Costner movie would. This is one of those moments where the Cheyenne had to reckon with, maybe these soldiers hate us because they've encountered these motherfuckers. The Comanches were just out and out motherfuckers, and were killing as many Indians as they were.
I think there was.
Chief, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think there's a hierarchy among the Native American tribes. You have the badasses like the Sioux, the Comanches, the Kiowa. You have the Apaches. And then you have the Cheyenne were and then you had the more gentler tribes like the Kickapoo and the other tribes who were not specifically warring tribes,
right?
I think even on this side of the country, like the Iroquois, I don't know much about them, the Iroquois and the Seneca and all them. I don't know if they were necessarily warring tribes, but like the Delaware and stuff like that, I don't know if they were specifically warring tribes, but the Comanche were the badasses. I mean, they were out there kicking butt, and because they were the lords of the plains, that's what they were like. They were it was like feudal. It was almost like feudal. They went out there and ruled that shit, and they subjugated other Native Americans. They took slaves. They raped. They did all that stuff. And I mean, it wasn't just them. I'm just saying they were the most powerful, I think, group out there. The Cheyenne. Unfortunately, I don't know much about them.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let's bring this back in a little bit. Because I mean, we were talking about specifically this party. So I think Bill's point is interesting. And although historically you're correct, not everybody was a warring
Right.
But
Yeah.
clearly these were a warring faction of Cheyenne, whether it was
Yeah.
them or not.
Yeah.
When the
But
chief,
now having, you know, at one point they actually end up finishing off the Comanche.
Yeah.
Christian
Yeah.
Bale gets really pissed off about that because Roy Cochran just lets them go off and kill those fucking Comanche.
Right.
He's like, you know, why should we do it? You know, let them do it. Because I don't think Roy Cochran had the problem that Christian Bale necessarily did with Wes Studi and his group. You know? He's like, look, the war's over with, you know, and like almost Stephen Lang said, you know, he's a dying old man now. There's no point in any of this anymore.
And now refresh my memory. Is it personal for Christian Bale's character?
Yeah, he hates the Studi.
Yeah, he hates Wes Studi's character, right?
Because he killed his friend, opened him up and gutted him right in front of him.
Yeah.
So he has a personal animus toward this one guy, and he calls him savage because of it. But I think that's that point, that one mirror point where I think Wes Studi's character sees, you got a point, maybe, you know, you hate us for a reason.
When the sergeant told the captain, when he said, if you ever fall asleep at your post again and release them, I'll shoot you myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the sergeant said, everybody deserves the right to kill somebody.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a stark line that he said, because he knew exactly what he meant.
Yeah.
Because in the previous scene, the chief was asking the captain,
take off the chain.
we'll help you.
Yeah.
And then when he didn't trust them, they still helped being chained.
Yeah,
they knew what they were going. We know what you're going up against. You know,
he tells him, he goes, "You're making this more difficult than it needs to be."
One of the biggest things in this movie about, especially with the people, they had to learn to trust.
Yeah.
There was a lot of untrusting
that you see.
That's a big
during
theme.
This journey that they're making is small moments of grace and maybe forgiveness or maybe just openness. It starts with the kid and his mother giving the dress to the woman whose family was killed.
Yeah.
And that starts this whole snowballing thing where every time you turn around, someone is giving a little bit of grace, getting a little bit of grace and growing. And then all of a sudden they start recognizing each other's humanity.
They're recognizing their pain also in the other group. So they're reaching out to comfort them just like they would comfort someone else in their own group.
Yeah.
I thought that was wonderful because that was starting to, by the time you got to the end of the trail, you truly believed that they were standing by each other.
Yeah.
You know,
it's really neat.
Realistically portrayed.
Yeah, those themes are really important, and they're done very well in the movie. I mean,
I think one of the major also mirror points, you know, to steal Bill's phrase, comes from one of my favorite character actors, period, and that's Ben Foster.
Yep.
If Ben Foster is it, if Ben Foster is in it, I'm watching it. And he just nails it again. I mean, like every single time. And he's
the only other guy who could have played. He's the only other guy who could have played Gollum and gotten away with it.
And this is the second Western he's appeared with Christian Bale, because they were in 3:10 to Yuma together.
There's a behind the scenes on the Blu-ray where they're talking about the making of, and Ben Foster's in there, and he says there's no scene where they're both in the camera together at the same time.
Okay.
In 3:10 to Yuma, he's like, I worked with him before. He goes, but this is the first time I got to go face to face with him. He was more like Russell Crowe's lieutenant. That movie.
Yeah.
But I know Ben Foster from all the way back with Freaks and Geeks. So this movie was particularly rough on me to watch him play out this character who was just an out and out murderer. And I'm like, that's the kid from Freaks and Geeks.
He's also, hey man, fuck that. He's the asshole from 30 Days of Night.
Is he the guy who played Angel in X-Men 3?
Yeah.
Is that him? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Now the thing
or as I like to refer to him as, you mean that good actor who's in a couple of these movies playing character roles?
If you want to see a great Ben Foster role, watch Hell or High Water.
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
Chris Pine and Jeff Bridges. That is a phenomenal fucking movie. He's Chris
Yeah.
Pine's brother.
Oh, okay.
And Jeff Bridges is very underrated in that movie.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I love Chris Pine and the brother, but Jeff Bridges, I'm like, God damn, how old are you and you're still bringing it?
Oh, and he's always making racist comments to his partner. He's always busting on him about being Indian. Why don't you go up there and scalp him, and do all this shit. But
This is
the
a
thing
turning
about
point for this is the turning point for Christian Bale's character when he confronts him. That is
Yeah.
the fulcrum that this movie hangs on, man.
the thing
Those
the
two
thing
talking
about
to each other.
the thing about Ben Foster's performance that makes him so good is that he believes he's right.
Yeah,
Like every good villain,
absolutely.
every good villain believes he's right. He can't
Yep.
see what the problem is.
Yeah.
I can't remember who said it, but every villain sees themselves as the hero in their story.
Well, look, yeah.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
mean, look at for a more recent example, I'm going to go there for a minute. Look at Thanos, and all those silly memes. Thanos was right and all that kind of stuff.
exactly.
his own mind, he's a nut.
Oh, you
Yeah.
can also say it for in Black Panther, the first one, the villain.
Oh, Killmonger, yeah.
A lot of people were saying that that he had a point.
Yeah, he
All right, well, let's keep it with this one though. I mean, he sees him and he goes, I saw you and I thought, shit, my luck is finally fucking turned.
Mm.
Because he thinks that, okay, I'm with friends again.
Right.
And it could be that at the start of the movie, he would have been right. But there's just so much that's happened.
Right.
And the look on Christian Bale's face when he has that monologue, when Ben Foster has that monologue, and you can see he's like horrified and revolted, but maybe not just because of what Ben Foster is saying, but because he recognizes certain parts of himself in what Ben Foster is talking about.
This is what the reporter was talking about. This is the monster that the reporter wanted to tell the story about.
Right.
Foster is that monster, and Bale sees it from all angles now.
Right. Especially when he was confronted with it, because I truly felt Bale's character really wanted to put it to rest. That he wanted to try to forget it. And then when it was thrown in his face, he had to decide to either accept it past and move on or just let it consume him like it did the sergeant.
Yeah. I mean,
the sergeant was consumed by his past to the end, and Bale couldn't understand that point either, or he could understand it, but he was like, don't do it. Don't leave me,
Ben Foster, that character wouldn't shut up. He would have done so much better in that situation if he had just said, hey, I know you, you know me. Leave it at that. But instead, he kept pushing and pushing, trying to make them, trying to pull Christian Bale into, yes, we are one and the same. We did the same things, but Bale still got his code. And he's still, no, I did these things because it was my job. You did murder. And there's
I'm reading Caesar. You enjoyed it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
And that's what Ben Foster tells him. He goes, you ain't who I thought you was. He thinks, he goes, I thought you were, no, I'm not. I'm not. And not to mention that there's value in having Rosamund Pike there. There's something about Rosamund Pike that bleeds humanity back into him. This woman, and maybe she's, a beautiful woman, or, it bleeds something back into, when she's burying her children, and then she starts screaming, and even like Roy Cochrane, like he can't look, he has to turn away.
Right.
There's so much humanity in what she's doing and what she's gone through that.
Yeah, but at the same time, she's the one that stood over the body of that Comanche and emptied that fucking pistol and that woman kept shooting.
Right.
Yeah.
Because she pulled the rifle at the end.
Right. Yeah. But when she pulled the rifle at the end, it was for different reasons.
She's had it.
With the Comanche, it was revenge.
Yeah.
I mean, when she was with Christian Bale, and my favorite was when they were in the camp. And Christian Bale said, "You'll be fine." Everything else, he goes, "I think I'm going to be safer with you." when she said that to him.
Well,
And he said, then let's go. You
her
know,
mirror point came when she was confronting or talking to at that dinner. Very nice. The colonel's wife.
right?
And the colonel's wife is just blathering on with all these platitudes. And again, you haven't been there. You've been in this fort eating off of
Right.
this fine china while I was, the Comanches were hacking away at my family. And she's just like, not really, even though she's saying the womanly thing, the female thing, she's like, no. So that was her point of like, I am not like you anymore. I'm not
Right.
this thing. I'm out there in the bush.
And I think she represented Christian Bale, for lack of a better term, what he was looking for, which was forgiveness. I mean, throughout the whole thing, like when the one point where it was raining, and she said, "What are you doing?" Because he gave up his tent for her to sleep in, and he said, "Get in here," And it was funny because I didn't think of it as a boom chicka wow wow moment. It was, but when she hugged him, and if you watch it again, Christian Bale's face for the first time relaxed, type deal, without saying a word, she was telling him it's okay, because when everybody else is saying you're a killer, she was looking at him, you're my defender, I can get through this with you.
Yeah,
she knew exactly who he was.
There's nobility in defending her, which may be something they haven't experienced in a long time. I think it's funny that Timothy Chalamet made it about 30 seconds into the first fight.
I was actually surprised.
I forgot he was in that.
He was actually pretty good.
Moadib wasn't doing too well out there on the frontier. We love him. We love him. I got both copies on
that must have been one of his first movies.
Yeah. He looked like
the riders were riding him.
Yeah.
I have to say, who I really liked in this movie?
Jonathan Majors?
Again, he doesn't get a lot of credit, is Adam Beach as his son, as the
West
son.
Duty's son. Yeah, West Duty's son.
I mean, he does not, he's been around forever too. And you just never see him or never hear from him. And then he pops up in this and it's like, oh, shoot, it's Adam Beach. And he was excellent in this.
Yeah.
I mean, but it just it's a shame because he doesn't get, I really can't remember what else I've seen him in, but
he plays a lot of when native movies come up, you'll see him. You don't see him outside of that very often.
No.
One of the people, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think he was in that awful Suicide Squad, the first one.
Oh, he was. Yeah, for about 5 minutes.
With Will Smith. Yeah, he got blown up or something. Yeah.
But I liked Jonathan Majors' character because he seemed like the most centered.
Mm-hmm.
He had religion, so he's singing hymns and guide me, and I felt that those songs weren't, those lyrics were there deliberately. I am weak, but you are strong. Unfortunately, and he seemed, because of that, to be the most stable person out there. And unfortunately, he loses his arm. And I thought that was another great scene between him and Christian Bale, because he actually feels like he's letting him down. Like I can't go any further. And Bale starts what he's like, you've never let me down. Never once. You're always, centered and and I haven't been a huge Jonathan Majors fan. I haven't seen him in too much. I missed the whole gang thing, but he was good in this. He was really good.
He hasn't been in a whole lot.
Well, he just got in trouble for something or accused of abuse or something. I don't know what's going on with that, but
it is Wednesday.
That's over with.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I haven't been following it. So
he in that scene when Christian Bale turned around to him and said, I wouldn't have made it this far without you on my right. And when he said to him, your father would have been proud.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that moment because Christian Bale became, for lack of a better term, less cold. He did stare at himself in the mirror and said, I don't like what I'm looking at. And it wasn't overly emotional. It wasn't, he looked at him and he said, I was proud to work with you. Type deal. But I love that moment when he said, your father, your daddy would have been proud. And it was funny because I'm like, that was, if it was done by other actors, it would have been hokey. The way they laid this out, the direction of this movie really worked too. Because the way they laid it out, it was very much common conversation like we're having now. You know, a little bit of joking here and everything. It wasn't like over acting. And I loved that. I really think that added to the weight of the dialogue.
There's no overacting. There are no supermen.
No.
No.
At all. Here's a question, and I guess we can start to move towards the close of this. Are the men that they confront at the end the final mirror?
Oh yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I thought so too. You just wanted them to get shot.
Well,
Oh yeah.
yeah, you get the whole sense by the way that Bale approaches them. That you know his whole feeling is these are the motherfuckers that I spent all this time, you know, selling my soul and doing all this horrible shit for.
Yeah.
And these guys don't give a fuck about anything. They're not respectful to the dead. They hate these Indians. The guy even holds up the presidential orders. The president of the United States got a piece of paper doesn't mean anything to me. And you can see the look on his face where he's like, all right, fuck you. He throws the paper on the floor, grabs his gun, and he's like, this is how it's gonna be. This is how it's gonna be. You know?
Mike, I even say I felt it was a mirror to the whole group. Because it was amazing in the beginning they were all separate. You know, and it was at that point they all quite literally were standing by each other's side.
Yep.
So to speak.
The thing of it is, Ryan had an interesting point too, in that this is very similar to Lonesome Dove, in that it's just such a tragedy because by the time it's over with, there's nobody left.
Yeah. Like that last part.
There's nobody left.
It's heartbreaking when, like, you know, Wes Studi's character dies, and then like his son and his daughter and
like when Wes
his wife
Studi's
all
character
die.
dies, it's okay because you knew the entire movie.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm saying the next
he's
three
dying of cancer. But that final gun battle where they kill the two women and they kill Adam Beach, and you're like, what? Like Christian Bale looks after the gunfight is over and he sees all the people are dead, and he's like, what the fuck? Like, what was all of this for?
What did I fight?
Right.
What is
it's senseless, and it reflects a lot of the senseless violence that was prevalent back then. And I mean, you know,
the end of that romantic era of the Wild West.
And
that was the end of it. And these are the new Americans. These are the people that are
get off my land.
I
saw you traipsing through my land.
Yeah.
I think they were riding on a road.
Yeah, they were just weren't they? They were just like farmers or ranchers or something.
Yeah.
Ranchers. They probably had 1,000 acres out there.
Oh
You know, but they're gonna go and pick a fight with these 4 fucking people that are just you know trying to make it through.
Now
somebody's dead, but no, fuck you, get the fuck, you know, and you're just like you don't know what you're doing, man.
See this if this was made back in, like, let's say if this was a John Wayne movie, John Wayne would have mowed them all down and nobody would have died. You know what I mean? And it wouldn't have been realistic in that sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
you didn't get those tragic sort of shoot 'em outs until spaghetti westerns, when they were turning the genre on its head and saying no, it's actually tragic.
I mean, if you look at the movie, even Unforgiven. At the very, very end, it's Clint Eastwood and the reporter. You know, Clint Eastwood riding through the town, giving one of the best damn monologues, drunk off his ass. I'll fucking kill you. I loved that because that's basically what it was. In the end of this movie, the 3 that were standing there was the grizzled veteran, who you knew was going to make it, the maternal character, who's and the future and the child,
the orphan.
I mean, that was. I mean, and I felt bad. I mean, I figured when the one woman was shot at that, I'm like, oh god damn it. I remember saying that out loud because I was like, well, shit.
Let's not even forget they get kidnapped again and fucking raped.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
those trappers. You're like, what? Like, this is almost
those are Those are the, I think, the Comanchero guys or something
Yeah.
like that. Or were they the Comanche?
No, they were just they were fur hunters. They just
Yeah, they
saw
were.
them.
They were the criminal. Yeah, fur hunters. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the way they did it when Christian Bale walked, you didn't see anything. But when he walked out and the blood is all over the knife and the look on his face,
Yeah.
when he goes to cut the widow loose and he realized he has to wipe the blade.
Yeah.
You know, I
I'll tell you what,
love
he's a
that. I was
the
like,
last
oh,
scene-
God, such
The
He's
last
He's such a
scene after-
fantastic actor. Christian
after
Bale
all
is
the
such a
killing is
fantastic
done,
actor.
It's so comical, that last scene when they're right in front of the station and they're all cleaned up and they're all wearing these suits.
Yeah.
And I
Mm.
thought about the quote from the beginning about the American spirit and how it's isolated
Cold
and a
and, yeah.
killer and it
Yeah.
hasn't melted yet. And I'm going, you know what? That's them
yeah.
in the midst of civilized people now with
Mhm.
all those experiences. And no, they haven't melted. And he turns and gives the Caesar book to the little kid, and he's like, "You got to
Yeah.
learn how to, not melt."
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was badass.
And I love he spoke in his native tongue. He didn't try to, he did that for the kid. And when she looked at him at the very end and said, "You're a good man,"
Mm-hmm.
out of everybody else who was saying, "I know what you were," I know it, she looked at him and said, "You're a good man." And I'm like,
he's
he needed to
qualified
hear
to
that.
do so.
I think his character needed to, because deep down he was. He
Yeah.
was a good man who went through a lot of shit. Excuse my
Mhm.
language. But and I love that. It was just like when I was like, shit, that's one of those moments at the end of a movie that I'm
Yeah.
sitting not going, oh
It's-
man, you blew it.
it's-
You had a right to.
Yeah.
No, it was the way it was
on-
done.
It sits right on the edge of going to what Stephen Lang said was going to happen to Christian Bale, and that he's just going to slowly lose his mind, waiting for his pension check, the whittle and whistle. And I remember the first time I saw it, like if he had just walked off and let them leave,
Yeah,
would it have been in keeping with the rest of the film?
right.
Mm.
I'm asking.
What?
I
If
I don't know.
If he had let them get on the train and go and not gone with them, would it have been in keeping with the rest of the film? I wasn't disappointed by the ending. I was glad for the ending in the way that he did, and that he does get back on. Because if anybody deserves to live and to be happy, or to try to be happy, and it's going to be those three. Because nobody
I
else
think
is
it
going to
depends if you thought
understand.
he deserved redemption.
But that's not what I'm
I mean-
asking. I'm asking if he had let them go, would it have been in keeping with the rest of the movie?
I think it would have been because it would have been if he honestly felt he didn't forget, he was forgiven.
Okay.
And I do agree. If he went off, that would have been a different ending, and he would have been quite literally the character that Clint Eastwood wanted to play in those Italian movies. A man with no name. I could see him becoming that cold heart type person going through it.
Yeah, I don't know if I personally would have been happy with it. I mean, I like how it ended, but
I like the fact of having hope.
yeah.
To me, I would have been happy if you realized he was a hopeless character and was going on. Okay, and I would accept that and be happy with it.
I
But
understand.
when he turned around and said no,
And that's what I like about this is that even though there's all this bleak stuff going on and there's tragedy stuff, there is the hope there, like you were saying. There's the hope for the future and all that kind of stuff.
and I think it was the first time he was given hope in years.
Yeah.
To be with. So rooting for this character who, when you saw him in the beginning, he was cold, and to see him warm up. Yeah, if he went that way, I would have said, well, of course, that's just his nature now.
He's no longer part of this bigger thing, this military. He's done. He's detached, right? So for him to go off with the woman and the kid, he has new responsibilities, but it's something that keeps him grounded. It's his newest duty to see that through instead of
And let's be honest, she's a pretty woman.
Well, he takes on a new domain. Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
nothing left to do in his military career, and now he moves on to this entirely new domain.
Yep.
And you know,
Right, but he's a guy with a code, and you have to be if you're going to get married and take care of a kid who
Right.
watches his whole
You
family
know,
get killed.
And I noticed as we, when we mentioned earlier, when we were talking about Ben Foster and we mentioned 310 to Yuma, it just occurred to me, I'm like, this is kind of like in 310 to Yuma, he was escorting a criminal. And then in this one, he's escorting technically, a Native American who is kind of the same thing. Although he dies in 310 to Yuma, Christian Bale doesn't make it out.
this
You
is
know,
better
it's
than 310 to Yuma.
interesting there.
Mm.
What's
This is
that?
This is better than 310 to Yuma.
Yeah. Oh, I love 310 to Yuma.
I like
I love
310 to
310 to
Yuma, but I
Yuma
like
too.
this
But
one.
it's not
Oh no,
as-
but
yeah.
I'm just saying. I noticed
Yeah.
it's the parallel of him escorting somebody,
Mhm.
somewhere. It's kind of the same thing.
All right. Let's get to the part in the channel where we rate the film. This channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5, up by halves all the way to 5. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I've run out of toilet paper for the rest of my life, and I'd rather live that life than watch this movie again. All the way to 5, which is this is the journey, this is the destination, this is why I watch films in the first place. Let's go with Ryan. What would you give Scott Cooper's Hostiles?
Hostiles, I would probably give it a 4. Given that I like, since Westerns are one of my favorite genres, like I said before, this was a realistic one. It was depicted accurately. They paid attention on the story is fantastic. I mean, and everything what we discussed, it's a very well done movie all around. So I would give it 4 stars.
Mhm.
Okay. John, what do you got?
I agree. I was thinking about initially when I first saw it, I was thinking about 3.5. It was about, but then the more and more I got into it, I said, no, I'll give it a strong, solid 4.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things we also didn't talk about was actually some of the music that was also in it.
Score was
I thought
beautiful.
the score was beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's to the point now, like I said, I never saw this movie until you brought it up. But now I want to watch it again. I want to sit and watch it again. And I
Did
watch
this
it
movie, do you know how it did in the theater? Like, I don't remember it being in the theater.
Yeah.
I remember in the theater, and I heard it got decent reviews, but nothing great.
Because
Uh,
nowadays
how about
people
box
tend to
office?
ignore Westerns,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has the attention span anymore.
Yeah, we were talking about it. People don't have the
Wouldn't have
attention
cost
span
that
for a
much,
Western
yeah.
anymore,
Yeah.
unless it's a Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worldwide gross was 36 million.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Domestic box office 29 million.
But see, that's,
International 7
On what?
million.
What was the
again,
was the,
Westerns.
What was the budget? Hold on a second. I'd have to look that up separately.
Westerns are a
$3.
hard sell nowadays. I mean, even Elmore Leonard said it himself. That's why he switched from writing Western novels to crime
39
novels,
million.
'cause he said,
Mhm.
yeah. No, Elmore Leonard switched from writing Western novels to crime novels because he said Hollywood dried up the Western market. And they kind of did. I mean,
Yeah,
there's, it's very rare now for a Western to come out. It's almost like a novelty.
We
You
were
know?
talking about a little quickly on this before I think you joined, Brian, when we were talking about the
Horizon.
Kevin Costner one that came out.
Oh,
Horizon,
I still
nobody-
want to see that. Yeah.
Nobody watched it. They're just
I
about to
saw it,
release
and
the
I'm
second-
sitting there going, why are people trashing this movie? It was
good
great.
movie. It's a really good movie.
And that
Open
was
Range is
one.
another
Beautiful
great one.
scenery, beautiful, great
Yeah.
characters. It was
Open
wonderful.
Range is a great one that nobody saw.
Oh, I think that one's fantastic.
That's an awesome
and-
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were funny as hell together. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, Costner and Robert Duvall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Robert Duvall and Costner were hysterical together.
Yeah.
And you can tell they've been through shit.
Another
Yeah.
good one is Appaloosa. All right. I
I
don't
haven't
like
seen it.
westerns.com. What do you got for us?
I'll give it a 4 as well. It was a very, very good movie. Well done, great performances. I think it was paced a little bit long. There's some stuff that I would have left on the cutting room floor, but overall, strong movie. I
Okay.
would not have been inclined to see it on my own. I'm glad I saw it. Great themes. It's well written. fantastic movie all around. Give it a strong 4. I probably am not compelled to go see it again, but I'm glad I saw it.
All right. I'm going to go with a 4.5. And I'll say why. I saw a few scenes that I thought, well, why is this in here? And then I realized I was just getting beautiful cinematography, which is one of the things we didn't talk about at all. And the background, the locations are just stunning to watch. We talked a little bit about him, but West Studi I thought was just fantastic. I thought it was just a great story. And I was saying before we went on that I heard once every Western is a morality tale. And certainly this is one of the upper. I think this is right at the threshold of cinema. I'll go with the 4.5.
Yeah.
All right. Solid.
Okay. Bill, what do you got for us? Anything you want to plug?
I've got nothing to plug. I don't like westerns.com.
All right. John, anything?
The thing I plugged last week. By the way, did everything go all right last week? You had a cut early.
Yeah. The power at my dad's place went out, and so suddenly it was 9:30 at night, and he was in the dark, so I had to go.
Oh, jeez.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I had to go grab him. So yeah, it was all fun.
The thing that pushed like thank you. The 8th annual.
Hey, there it is.
The 8th annual Readers Theater, as I like to call it.
That's neat. I like that. Yeah. I go to those sometimes when I can. Yeah, they're cool.
And this one's a little different on the fact that Bill Sterrett, who requested it, he wanted stuff that was considered bizarre and weird.
Oh, okay.
He specifically asked me. He said he thought we were getting a little too heavy-handed, and some of them are heavy-handed. There's one that's in there, a woman's monologue about a humorous look at going through chemo. Was one of them. But there's one that I'm doing that I think is hysterical called A Hotel Bar in Pittsburgh. And there's another one where I get to play an aging, overblown, full of pompous actor who gets upstaged by a dog named Bootsy, and which is very, very funny.
That's cool.
And there's also one I get to play a pigeon because but the thing about it is, not only can you go and see the show either this Saturday or this Sunday, not only is it on Zoom that you can actually, if you can't make it, you can pay the money and bring all your friends in and just on one ticket watch it. But you also don't have to be there live. You can pay for the ticket and then they'll give you a code and you can pick it up and watch it when you want.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is something new. So you don't feel like you have to be there at that time. It's all the description that's right there. If you get a chance to see it, because it does support new writers and new artists and things like that. And some of it is really, really funny. And some of it is poignant, but they're good. We got a little silly and we enjoy it.
That's good. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Ryan, what do you got for us?
I'm currently directing the production of The Man Who Came to Dinner at Gateway Playhouse. That's going up in April 4th, 5th, and 6th. They're okay with me doing a Christmas show in April, so that's fine. And but it's I asked them, I'm like, I had a plan for Christmas. And they're like, oh, but we have a Christmas show schedule. I'm like, all right, are you guys okay with this in April? They're like, yeah, all right, fine. So it's one of those things like Die Hard. It takes place on Christmas, you know what I mean? We got a great cast. It's a workout, but it's coming along good. And I'm just doing that every Monday and Thursday right now. And we're cooking and we'll be up and running soon. So that's what I got.
When are the dates again, Ryan?
4th, 5th, and 6th of April.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. Sounds good. For this channel, I just interviewed on Monday Barrington Martin II. So go check that out. He is a radio host of the Barrington Report, and he was a congressional candidate in the 5th District of Georgia. He was the last person to run against the famous representative of Congress, famous member of Congress, John Lewis. And so that was an interesting conversation. And then halfway through, it turned into professional wrestling. and we ended up spending the second half just talking about pro wrestling. We started talking about the world, and it turned into pro wrestling, and then we realized it was 9 o'clock and we had missed half of Raw on Netflix, so we broke off. But he's going to be back, and he's like, especially if you ever want to, we can talk about anything you want, but if you like want to do like some wrestling talk, like Elimination Chamber coming up, I'm on. I'm like, yeah, all right. So we'll be back
From the
soon.
center to the spectrum.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. I have this going on till Friday night. Don't ask me why. I'm going to see the Captain America movie. So I'll have a. I got to tell you, I saw one of the fight scenes. The fight choreography looks terrible. It looks terrible. So I'm going to go see that. I'll have a review posted up about that. And then next Wednesday, we'll be back with S. Craig Zoller's Bone Tomahawk.
Oh yeah! Wow. Yeah.
It's available on Pluto TV. Bone Tomahawk came out around the same year as The Hateful Eight. And if you ask me, I think it's a better film. So we'll be covering
It's different.
Yeah, absolutely different. And if you ever get a chance to read the book that it's based on, Wraiths of the Broken Land by S. Craig Zoller, the director and writer of this.
He wrote the book. Okay.
Yeah, it's even S. Craig Zoller's a great writer. He writes some hardcore Western shit. And so this is a definite Western horror film. So we'll be back next week with that. And then
and I got my hair cut. I wanted to show that off.
It's not that bad. No. And then the following week, we'll be back with the American Psycho, which I very much am looking forward to getting into. I haven't talked about American Psycho in this format ever, but I rarely get a chance to talk about it with anybody. So that'll be good. My thanks to idon'tLikeWesterns.com. My thanks to John K. Alvarez. My thanks to, the Ryan Daly. We will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone. God bless you.
Bye, honeys.
Peace.
Hey, everybody. This is the American Werewolf. Thanks for stopping by. Like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button. Thank you.